Hello and welcome, everybody. Let me just check that we are genuinely live. I don't fully believe that we made it yet. Let's see. Okay, they did the usual thing of delaying it. So, okay, they mess around every single with every single YouTube broadcast. Today, I expect there to be particularly a lot of hacking and online sabotage, more than usual. You probably already noticed that I was live for about a minute and a half waiting for this to load. At my end, it did not show this broadcast to be live. That's one of the standard harassment techniques, so that the video at the beginning makes people wait and just, you can just see me just sitting around looking stupid and waiting. Anyway, that's the least of it. So today it's about the Secret Service shooting an intruder, a gunman, or a guy with a shotgun inside the Mar-a-Lago security perimeter. It will be quite a lot. The very first thing I would like to say about that incident is that, just like with the Butler assassination attempt, nothing is as it seems, and nothing will be true about what the FBI will release about this case. And I've already seen the first signs. So let's try to debunk it and let's go after it. Today, I announced that I will be doing the broadcast at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm now delayed by almost 6 hours. And that's because every time in my mind I ran through what I'm going to say about this, I ended up slipping into British English, which is speech that, if it were ever broadcast on American television, would sound like Morse code. I am extremely angry about this incident, not least because if it's really true, what has been presented to the public, Secret Service agents could have lost their lives last night, and the whole thing was entirely preventable. Even more so if it's really true what has happened and somebody was indeed shot, which these days nobody can really assume. But let's assume that at least the Secret Service at Mar-a-Lago is truthful. Then a person died, and they really have nothing to do with anything. The entire spectacle, as I'm trying to prove today, is purely cartel signaling. So someone died just so that the cabal sends a message. And the message is a death threat, as far as I can make out, against 4 people, including myself. And I will go into the reasons why. Sounds outlandish, but hey, I have been proven right about other things. So just indulge me today. If you're new to this channel and you're wondering what the precise F I'm talking about, I have been investigating the intelligence agencies pretty much full time since 2016. I have litigated against British intelligence in 2016 and then again 2019, or tried to. Nearly lost my life several times as a result. I have survived so many assassination attempts, I lost count. As is actually true. The last one I survived, a really obvious one I survived, was on December 8th, on my own way to Mar-a-Lago, December 8th, 2024. And that trip will be directly relevant to what just happened at Mar-a-Lago last night. It is almost a perfect mirror image of that, and we'll get into that. So, but the bottom line is, prepare to look deeper into this case, because the surface of it is almost entirely bullshit. So if you work for the Secret Service and you want to investigate, maybe you're one of the people who nearly lost his or her life. I can tell you, do not look for hope from the FBI, any help from the FBI, because they orchestrated the whole thing. Okay, just like they orchestrated Butler, the West Palm Beach attack. It's FBI and CIA. The two are pretty much the same thing. It was them again. It is absolutely ruthless. It's disgusting. And your colleagues probably nearly lost their lives. And this shit is going to continue unless you guys actually try to listen to William Binney, the retired NSA technical director, who's also my husband, and me. And today I will try to prove to you just how much you guys don't know what the F is going on. It's written all over your Secret Service website. It's quite astounding, but I'll get into that. So I should also say, it might sound outlandish to you what I'm saying here, but this comes on the back of, now, I think December 26th will be my 10th anniversary of the launch of my YouTube channel. And for the last 10 years, I have gone very deep, investigated stuff about the intelligence agencies, mostly directed energy weapons, non-consensual implanting, neurotechnology, neurohijack, criminal attacks by neurohijacking people, and so on and so on. I was an expert witness for 3 European court cases, one in Switzerland, one in France, and one in Belgium. I have litigated myself in the United Kingdom. I have dealt with, I think, about a dozen intelligence agencies in Europe. I am on their shit list on all of them. They certainly know who I am. So when I'm talking about, and also I should say, to my knowledge, I'm the only woman to ever litigate against British intelligence in the open high court pro se. So I think that's a world premiere, a first. So they know who I am. So when I'm saying that they are sending me a message, it's not as outlandish as it might seem to you Americans who don't really know what's going on in Europe and don't really know that British intelligence runs your US intelligence agencies. So anyway, I dive straight into it, but I want to take it more slowly. I should also say that several times last year, I have made an attempt to come online more regularly and talk about all the things that had happened that have happened that I could have commented on. I didn't do it for 2 reasons. Number one, I actually felt that it would be best to let things play out and just keep my silence, especially because a lot of the stuff I would have commented on would have sounded like a criticism of the Secret Service, which is actually the last thing I wanted to criticize. The Secret Service is the only reason our president is still alive. And I will, not just because of Butler, but what happened since then, and I'll elaborate that. So nothing that I'm going to say now will be meant as a criticism of President Trump or of the US Secret Service or of their new director, Sean Curran. I genuinely believe that the only reason the president is alive is because he picked Sean Curran as his Secret Service director, because of the changes that Sean Curran made personally and his team made, because of his dedicated work, and because of the team, among others, at Mar-a-Lago, in West Palm Beach. And it's only thanks to them that we still have President Trump. So thank you to all of you guys. I will go into a lot more detail of what you've actually achieved. Maybe you didn't realize how serious it actually was, what you have prevented, but you have prevented a couple of very big things that would have ended our president's life. The cabal had geared up everything. The chatter that I was monitoring was saying that that's going to be the next big thing. And then you guys prevented it, and I found out afterwards, and I was just more than glad. So nothing I'm going to say is going to be criticism of the Secret Service or President Trump. I'm still ultra MAGA. In fact, I'm so ultra MAGA that the ultra MAGA crowd had to come up with a new label for me, which is rabidly MAGA. Okay. I totally support what President Trump did and is doing. I should also put a little asterisk on this comment and say, I mean strictly what President Trump is doing. This doesn't extend to Kash Patel or Pam Bondi or the other people in the orbit. I really like what RFK Jr. is doing. I have some, comments on that, how to be even better, but I'd like the direction it's heading. So with this out of the way, I hope, nobody kind of tightens up or thinks that I'm criticizing their colleagues or anything like that in the Secret Service. What I'm definitely going to do is criticize the FBI and the CIA because I will prove it to you, were responsible for all these attacks, all of the attacks. If you're in the Secret Service, do not listen to allegations that it's Iranian hit squads or any such shit, or Russian this or Russian that, or Nicaraguan, I don't know what, dope dealers. It's not. It always has been and always will be US intelligence that tries to kill the US president. Why? Because all intelligence agencies are part of the same corporation. I can prove that also to you, but it will take a bit more time. But when the cabal wants a US president dead, they will always hire US intelligence because those are the people who have the home advantage. Those are the people who control all the plants in society, who know the lay of the land, who know how the Secret Service works, how the police agencies work, and who can cover up information, as has happened in Butler where the FBI came in and washed down the roof the next morning, and then they seem to have bleached the crook's house, and then they released the body for cremation and cremated the body very quickly. Three things that are indicative of the fact that the DNA of the shooter on the roof had to be destroyed because it looks like didn't match the DNA of the parents, because the shooter was not Thomas Crooks. But that aside. So, as you could see in Butler, the FBI are the bad guys. Kash Patel has done absolutely nothing to assuage my fears. In fact, he poured petrol on the fire with overt cartel signaling, and I'll get into that. But as it stands right now, the Secret Service, President Trump, and my husband, Bill Binney, and myself, we are completely on our own. The cavalry isn't coming. The FBI is never going to help us if we want to survive collectively, because we're all under attack, and every single one of the people I listed has been shot at by the FBI. So Director Curran has been shot at by the FBI/CIA at Butler. So has President Trump. Secret Service agents were shot at West Palm Beach, at the golf course. They were shot at last night. I'm shot at with directed energy weapons every single night I go to bed. My good friend, NSA whistleblower Karen Melton Stewart, I believe, was shot in the head so hard she's permanently debilitated and can't communicate with the outside world. So, guys, we are on our own. I have tried to get through to Sean Curran and President Trump since September 2024, and I have been stonewalled. My husband and I have been stonewalled. Our letters went unanswered. I have evidence that the FBI stole letters, that they diverted registered letters sent via UPS and FedEx to Chantilly in Virginia, where the CIA University is, and so much more. But the bottom line is that President Trump and his appointees, the Secret Service, and us, who are trying to help you guys, but you don't seem to get it. We're all on our own. Okay? So, hey, you can listen to me or continue not listening to me and farting me off and farting off the retired NSA technical director who designed the system that NSA is using today. You can continue, I don't know what, listening to defamation of us, or whatever is going on behind the scenes. But if you do that, you will continue to get shot, because since Butler, nothing, absolutely nothing has been done to unmask and arrest the network that is behind the Butler assassination attempt. So, hey, if you want to keep spinning, or let the cabal spin the barrel and pull the trigger at you, continue doing what you were doing. That's exactly what you should be doing if that's the outcome you're aiming for. But if you actually value what Bill Binney and I bring to the table, Sean Curran could maybe answer his correspondence now after 2 years. I understand that in the first year he was very busy. He said in an interview it was like drinking out of a fire hose. I totally understand. And that's why I also held my peace as much as I could publicly. But that is now over, because last night, the whole shit show at Mar-a-Lago is first and foremost a direct death threat against me. And I will go into why and how. But for that, you need to understand the coded message of the intelligence agencies, the coded language, the symbols they use. And once you understand that, you can decode everything they said in the past and everything they will say in the future, because there's not really much that they can do about this coded language. They inherited it. It's centuries old. You can't teach the entire world a new language. They will stick to it to the bitter end. And if you unmask, how they are talking to each other out in the open, then you can actually read their comms. Okay, so bear with me. I didn't invent this, and I certainly didn't discover it as the first human being ever, because, for example, all the senior level Masons, the Freemasons, know this code. The people in Skull and Bones know this code. The people in the Illuminati Secret Society, which really is a real thing, because there's an entire, I think, National Geographic article about them. And they all know this code. They are taught this code. There are training courses in this code. The only people who don't know it are non-cabal members like myself, or just women, because the Masons are an all-male secret society. So, but I think I'm the only non-insider to have ever mapped it systematically and decoded the language to the extent that I did. And I termed it cartel signaling. The purpose of this is for a criminal network that is vast to communicate with its minions without being able to send corporate memos or even emails. Why? Because they know that the NSA databases collect it all and it would be in there and it would be even more explosive and damaging than the Epstein files. So Epstein might have written, stuff openly in emails, but the cabal, since times immemorial, have announced it, what they're going to do and what they're doing right now, out in the open, using code that doesn't mean anything to the average person and means an awful lot to the insiders. So that's what I'm talking about. If you think this is weird, it absolutely is not. There are historical examples of this. There's, for example, what's called Double Dutch. Double Dutch used to be the coded language used by, I think, Dutch pirates, as I understand it. So they were talking about their heists and what they were planning to do, and it was unintelligible to the people who were listening to them in the pubs while they were getting drunk. Another example is Cockney rhyming slang, which is I think little petty criminals in London and mobsters in London used to communicate with each other without the police understanding. But then again, Cockney rhyming slang is mirrored or kind of based on Masonic coded languages, and the London police was in the Masons. So it's really the same corporation, kind of one hand doesn't know what the other is doing, but at the very top, they're all the same. But Cockney rhyming slang is a thing. You can look it up. That's another example, and there are many, many more. So regarding symbolism, I think the FBI calls it iconography. It's well known that pedophile networks have their own symbols. Some of them came out in the WikiLeaks, and we found out that corporate brands have well-known pedophile symbols as their logo and so on. But I don't want to get into that today. I just want to talk about what happened at Mar-a-Lago, okay? If you're new to this, it will be weird as shit, but don't blame me. I didn't come up with it. I am just describing what's happened, and I'm trying to explain to the Secret Service what they need to look out for. Okay, so diving straight into it. Okay, and before I do so, let me just check that the audio is still functional, because I expect this to be, targeted to hell. Okay, let's see. Is it still running? Okay, wow, the quality seems to be quite good. I should say that I have a broadband connection. There shouldn't be a hitch, but when the FBI sits on the line, anything can happen. Okay, so let's dive into it. I don't want to waste you guys' time, and it's already late. It's 2 a.m. where I am, but it's a good thing that I exhausted myself, because otherwise I would be quite annoyed. All right, so here we go. So today I put out this post on True Social, and I said, and I mean every word, today's case of the intruder into Mar-a-Lago is not an assassination attempt. It absolutely is not, because neither President Trump nor First Lady Melania were at Mar-a-Lago. Okay. Now you might subscribe to this bullshit story that it was like some random kook who pulled up, but I'll tell you, it's not. It's nothing like it. This was run by the intelligence agencies. They know exactly where President Trump is. I think, in fact, anybody who would have checked what President Trump was doing that day would have known he's not in Mar-a-Lago, because every time he flies from DC, it's published on YouTube, so even I can track where he is. And anybody who's got two brain cells would know this. But then again, the person who supposedly, was trying to shoot him was Gen Z, and they are dumb as they come. So yeah, maybe he didn't know. But trust me, this whole thing has nothing to do with an actual assassination attempt. It is purely cartel signaling by the US intelligence agencies for the global cabal. But it's also just like the double murder of the two National Guard members in DC, which also, I'm telling you, had absolutely nothing to do with the National Guard or with anything that people claimed it was. It was purely cartel signaling. It was, I might even go as far as say, a satanic ritual sacrifice. They murdered a man and a woman because a month earlier, the Secret Service had prevented them from murdering President Trump and First Lady Melania. And I'll get into that. So instead, they killed somebody else, almost like to save face, to just say, hey, we'll continue killing anyway, like the psychopathic killers that they are. But the shooting of the National Guard members is just, it is, I mean, gut-wrenchingly sad that people lost their lives for it. But that was entirely just for signaling purposes. And what happened last night is also just for signaling purposes. And once you understand that, you realize how little these psychopathic killers and the US intelligence agencies care about human life, or the cabal. So that's why I'm basically headed with this. Now, the other thing that I also alleged is that the purpose of this incident was to deliver a message, and I believe it to be a death threat against 4 people, including myself. All right, so this is what I'm going to talk about. Right, so let's dive straight into it. Let's first of all listen to what actually happened during the event. Now, I hope you guys can see the screen here. So this is the, actually, I need to share it with sound. So let me just do it again. Sorry. I need to get back into YouTubing, so forgive me if I'm a bit slow and scatterbrained today. I'm really trying my best here. Let's see. Let's catch up. Okay, so you guys could see it. All right, yes, I can see that it's working. Okay, so let's listen to the description of what actually happened here with sound. And let's see if we spot something that's kind of odd.
My name's Rick Bradshaw. I'm the sheriff of Palm Beach County. I have with me from the FBI, Special Agent in Charge, Brett Scott.
Okay, now first of all, okay, and this, I'm not alleging anything in this case. This is almost a footnote for future reference. But when I see a guy that age being a police officer with a, big clonking gold, whatever jewel, bling-a-ding-ding ring, I immediately think of the Masons, okay? Now, I pointed this out to Bill Binney, and his first comment was, oh, that looks like my college graduation ring. So it could be something like that, okay? But the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, wow, the Masons are right there. Now, I know that the Masons are right there because they have taken over pretty much all the police stations anywhere in the US and Western Europe, but also particularly the police in West Palm Beach. I was trying to work with them because driving to West Palm Beach, I survived an assassination attempt on the 8th of December, 2024. While I stayed at West Palm Beach in an Airbnb, my car was sabotaged twice, and I was stalked, overtly harassed with FBI intimidation theater, and so on and so on. I would love to work with the police, but I can tell you that it's not just West Palm Beach. Any police department I've ever dealt with in the UK, in Germany, and Switzerland, and definitely the US, is 100% fake. They do not work like the police. You literally have to force them to even look at evidence, no matter what it would be, attempted murder, housebreaking, car sabotage, vandalism, doesn't matter, poisonings. They do not give a shit at all. They have set instructions coming down from the Masons and the Cabal of what to investigate and who to set up, and they do not do forensic investigations. I have never, ever in my life seen any trace of the FBI or MI5 or the German Verfassungsschutz or any local state police or federal police agency conduct an investigation ever. I think that at some point in the 1990s, when cop shows really took off, they dialed up the cop shows, and we all believed that because we saw TV cops solve cases, that they were solving cases in real time. And at the same time, the Masons dialed down whatever little investigations they did. Forensic labs still exist, but when you actually test what they're capable of, they lose evidence, they destroy evidence, their results are utter bullshit, just like in Butler. And just like in the Charlie Kirk case, forensic results came, for example, that the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk, gun experts say that it would have literally punched a ginormous hole into an elk. So it's bullshit. But when I see this stuff, I already think, okay, whatever the fuck follows, take it with a pinch of salt and pepper and Tabasco and buffalo sauce, right? So, okay, the police was in charge. Now, what gives me a little bit of hope here is that the people who were involved were the Mar-a-Lago Secret Service, and that's the team that Sean Curran was in charge of. So I just hope that what they are saying is the truth. But with the police, I'm already like, oh my God, what's going to come now? And the reason for it is exactly shit like is symbolized by these ginormous, rings, these insider rings. So I'm not saying this is what it is now, but just be prepared for it. Otherwise it would be signals for, okay, the case is lost, the Masons have spoken, forget it. But let's just indulge the situation here.
Special Agent in Charge Rafael Barrios from the Secret Service. Also, I have Resident Agent in Charge David Clancy. At 1:30 this morning, the security detail detected that a individual had made his way into the inner perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. A deputy and 2 Secret Service agents on the detail went to that area to investigate. They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene. I'll give you a picture of the shotgun and the gas can to have with you. So that's what we know now. Investigation continues. The FBI is the lead investigation agency on this case, and we will be.
Holy fuck. Well, if the FBI is the lead, it's going to go the way of Butler. It's going to be Deep Six, and whatever they put out will be total undiluted bullshit. I promise you that. So, okay, with that, we can already stop listening. But I want to show you the photo. I'm going to fast forward to this. Here's the FBI. Don't even give a flying fuck what they say. Yeah, whatever. Sorry, I should also say I don't blame this guy. If anybody can point me to an FBI agent who actually investigates shit, I mean, really, I'll be impressed, but I'm not holding my breath, whatever the fuck they say. Oh yeah, this guy. I remember this guy. It's one of those, I think it was in Butler that I did facial analysis of one of his press briefings. And it was basically, it wasn't even micro expressions. It was macro expressions of deception. But yeah, he had to cover up total bullshit under Kim Cheetle. So, hey, I'm not going to give this guy a hard time. But whatever, I don't give a fuck. Here, this is what I want to show you. That thing, okay? So, what's wrong with this picture? All right, what's wrong with this picture? We are in the United States where my own IT guy has more guns than the average Afghan warlord. Okay. Every average American, right? Everybody, certainly where I live, everybody's armed to the teeth. And then this guy rocks up to Mar-a-Lago, one of the most fortified areas, okay, to just do some bullshit with a shotgun. Somebody remind me how many rounds are in a shotgun? Right? Well, what's wrong with this image? Right? You can go into Walmart and buy more capabilities than this guy rocked up with. Okay, so as soon as I see this, I already think this is bullshit. This is not a real case, people. This is cartel signaling. So we're meant to remember the word. And also, can you see the size of this big fat ring? I mean, maybe he's into jewelry, but he didn't strike me like, a rapper who would have. But okay, I already made the point. So the guy rocks up with a shotgun, and later on you'll find out he traveled really far, okay? And then he bought this on the way. He could literally go into any local Walmart on the way, I don't know, in Alabama, South Carolina, Florida, and buy more ammo than that. Okay. Maybe he listened to Biden and Biden said, buy a shotgun. But then again, he was a conservative this time around in the bullshit story. So, okay, this is number one, right? So even when you're completely barking mad and you're a Gen Z little moron, just by virtue of you being an American and being around Americans, you would know to just buy a bit more, firing power than that if you're going to have a standoff with the Secret Service. But okay. And then the gas canister. What the fuck? Like, what was the plan? Did he have a set of matches on him? Was it gonna be like the biggest Molotov cocktail ever, thrown lobbed into Mar-a-Lago, which by the way is surrounded by water and it's bloody humid down there, as I've experienced. So this time it's not gonna set much alight. What is this? What sort of plan was it? Like nobody is, not even Americans are this fucking stupid, okay? This is what I'm trying to say. So this story already doesn't add up. You're already being bullshitted. And if this guy was actually, or were actually a real police officer, there would already be questions. He wouldn't show us this picture because there would be so many questions attached to that picture. It would be part of the investigation. But somehow everything else as part of the investigation is kept secret, like how many shots were fired. I mean, you should know that by now. An hour later, somebody must have watched the security footage, right? But we don't know that, but we know that he had a shotgun and a gas canister. So what's the point of this? The point of this is not to inform us. The point of this is for the cabal to send a message to their minions and to anybody like myself who might decode what the fuck that they are saying, okay? At this point, I still didn't know what the hell they were saying, but it's about shotgun and gas, okay, or fuel. You can pour fuel under fire, shotgun, whatever it means, whatever. But it is a message, okay, because inside the story, it doesn't make any freaking sense, okay? So I want you to know that anything that follows from this point onwards is going to be bullshit if you take it on face value. And if you do what a lot of influencers did and the Charlie Kirk thing, and you dive into the weeds and then you really take it on face value what the FBI is saying or what the police is saying, you will be led up the primrose path, which is very much the point. But just know that the cabal is going to watch you and watch your YouTube videos, and they're all going to laugh about how stupid we all are. So we need to wisen up. We need to put our life experience into this, and we need to realize that at this point, we should all know that whatever follows is not what it says on the tin or what it says on face value, okay? Because this shit just doesn't make any sense. Okay, understood? Right, moving on. So this is all I want to get from this video. Now the next one, right? Let's dive into okay, so I saw this and I already thought, okay, fucking hell, right? What I do when I want to know what the cabal is actually saying is I go to Reuters or Associated Press. Why? Because they're cabal agencies and they are mostly, sending cartel signaling. When these big, bombastic events, they are the first ones to put out the code to their followers. And once you understand that, you will also not be surprised about allegations that, for example, I think it was Associated Press reporters, or maybe Reuters, or both, that there were journalists of, I think it was Associated Press, don't want to get sued. That's what I remember. So from memory, there were allegations, not mine, others, that journalists connected to these agencies that were stationed in Ukraine knew to buy a ticket to fly to Israel to be able to report live from the scene on October 7th. Okay? If you don't know how the cabal works, that's surprising. When you know that AP and Reuters are right up the anus of the beast, not surprising. It's exactly what you would expect. Okay? So with this logic and past experience, I went to AP and This is how they reported it. And I'm already sorry that I'm getting agitated, but this is just, I can't take this shit. It really goes under my skin. So AP said an armed man drove into the secure perimeter at Mar-a-Lago. Drove, okay? This guy didn't say how he got there. There are also allegations that he scaled a wall and he walked in, whatever. It's going to be bullshit. I'm going to be waiting for the Secret Service to put out something, whichever way he got there. It's kind of amazing, but hey, mistakes happen. Okay, but apparently he drove in. All right, fine. And that's President Trump's resort in Palm Beach, Florida, before being shot and killed early Sunday morning. Okay, fine. It happened at 1:30 a.m. Okay. Now, the man had a gas can and a shotgun, authorities said. Investigators identified him as 21-year-old Austin Tucker Martin of North Carolina, according to the FBI. Now, remember what I said about the FBI? Anything that they will be putting out will be bullshit, and the whole purpose will be cartel signaling. So with this in mind, let's decode what the FBI said. I first note 21-year-old, 2 plus 1 in numerology, which is the bullshit arithmetic of the cabal, equals 3. Okay, 3 is usually the signature or stands for the third letter of the alphabet, which is C, which usually stands for crown. When you see the number 3 appear, and it featured prominently in the assassination attempt on President Trump at Butler and the announcement of it, so just take that on trust for today. But when you see 3 or 33, Masonic 33, which stands for CC, so Crown Corporation, it is like a hand signature by the Crown. The Crown signed it. So the fact that it just so happens that this kid is 21-year-old, and given that's the FBI talking, right, already, I think, okay, this is the Crown broadcast. Now, his name is very unusual because it's Austin Tucker Martin. Austin Tucker Martin. And when I read that, I was like, what coincidence? Because Tucker Carlson has just pissed off Huckabee, right? The ambassador to the U.S. ambassador to Israel, to the extent that he was detained at the airport in Israel, right? A big hoo-ha just blew up over the last day or two, right? Now, Austin is also a very, very important person, namely Catherine Austin Fitts. Catherine Austin Fitts nearly lost her life, and she is the person who uncovered the black budget of the military that was being laundered through HUD. The total sum of money that basically the cabal laundered into these black budgets, if from memory, is about 47 trillion. All right. And I think out of that was just that laundry of 21 trillion or something like that was the laundry operation through HUD. Don't quote me on the precise numbers, just order of magnitude. We're talking trillions. So the amount of money that Catherine Austin Fitts proved that the US military, the Pentagon, stole from the US taxpayer would be enough to fill the US debt. Okay. Well, pretty much. So this is a big sum of money. As she stated publicly in interviews with Greg Hunter, Catherine Austin Fitts said already publicly that the FBI tried to kill her multiple times. They tried to poison her. They drilled holes into her siding, the siding of her house, tried to poison her over several months, and so on and so on. So she is right up there on the shit list, but she's also extremely important for President Trump because Catherine Austin Fitts developed a platform that was live public accounting at the local, state, and federal level. So with Catherine Austin Fitts' live public accounting, no government agency, apart from some classified projects, can spend $1 on a pencil without the taxpayers knowing it live. So in other words, as soon as that, government debit card gets swiped, it would appear on her platform, as I understand it. Now, just in the pilot project, she unmasked huge corruption with live public accounting where the taxpayers could track every single dollar in the taxpayer dollar through the government accounts and exactly see how it's being spent as it's being spent, the Minnesota daycare fraud would not be possible. It could not be covered up to this extent because people would find it odd that their local daycare is getting just so much money and there's no traffic. So when the data is available, private citizens will just, come across stuff by chance, or they just have an interest and would look deeper into it, right? There are forensic accountants who might take an interest and so on. So Catherine Austin Fitz's model her platform system analysis says the Trump administration needs it. It is a necessary requirement to really drain the swamp. Without it, forget it. With it, you won the fight against the deep state. All right, because you drained at least one of their major, money sources, which is theft from the U.S. taxpayer. So Catherine Austin Fitz, along with Bill Binney, they are right up there. They are key building blocks in draining the swamp. Okay. So Catherine Austin Fitz is important. Tucker Carlson fucked with the cartel. He's important. And Martin, to me, sounds like Tom Martin, known on True Social under the username @Aspen Valley. You should really look into him and what he says because he has an open FBI case that he brought against, I think it's what's his name? Vesna, the guy from the pedophile files, the Epstein files, but also tied to Colorado corruption and the theft of the election and so on and so on. But Tom Martin's case is directly tied to Tina Peters. Okay, so Austin, Tucker, and Martin are it's name dropping that means something very deep to me. Okay, all of them. So Tucker Carlson exposed just the how much Israel was shit mixing, and he's not afraid to say it, which is why he's right up there on the blacklist. Catherine Austin Fitz has been on the blacklist right up there, but she is really systemically important. And what she developed is systemically important for the Trump administration and humanity, if you guys know it or not. And Tom Martin's case goes right to the heart of the Tina Peters case. And his case is tied. And he keeps complaining on True Social that the FBI never followed up. So he had one interview with them, but they never came back for a second interview. And that's not surprising when you know that the FBI stole the election in 2020. They orchestrated all this. They coordinated all this. Of course, they're not going to follow up. They just wanted to know how much evidence he had, and then they're good, okay? They just don't want to hear about it ever again. But these three people are important. Now, if these three people keep talking, and they're all brilliant, right, in their own fields, in their own ways, they're saying very important stuff. It's going to be bad for the cartel when more and more people start to listen to them. They already have huge following, but if the Trump admin starts to actually act according to what these people are trying to achieve, it's going to be very bad. So when I saw these three names in this sequence, I thought, okay, the announcement here from the Crown, remember the 21? The Crown says, this is about Austin, Tucker, and Martin. That's what I read, right? Now, this is just one part of the story, okay? Because there's another aspect about this particular name of this guy. And mind you, I consider this whole thing to be completely made up, okay? So as soon as I saw the shotgun and the gas canister, I'm like, okay, whatever. Everything else about this case is complete bullshit. So let's just take it to be bullshit and try to look for the underlying message here, okay? So there's something else about that name that you should know, which also fits 100% into this whole thing, how the cabal works. Okay, let me share my screen again. All right. Yeah. Okay, so this is how Benny Johnson reported this whole thing, okay? He pointed to some post here, I'm not sure what this is, social media, Facebook, whatever, by a woman called Chrissy Fields saying, my nephew, Austin Tucker Martin, is missing. He left home at 1 p.m. yesterday and hasn't had contact with anyone since 7:51 yesterday. right? This is not like him at all. Vast/Southern Pines area, the local police are involved, and they have also reached out to the FBI. Please reach out if you have seen him. Now, if they have reached out to the FBI, you guys might not know, but the FBI has ways to locate these people. If these people reached out in time, right? And you will later on, they will just say just the fact that he drove from North Carolina down to Florida, that's hours and hours of driving. Okay. Now, if the FBI was notified that this person is missing, they have ways to locate anybody because there are cameras that you guys don't know about on the motorway. There are cameras fucking everywhere. You know, you can't drive or travel anywhere without being seen. So if there was a flag of somebody missing going to the FBI and the FBI would have wanted to do a proper job, they could have found this guy. All right. So that's another footnote. You know, at some point, people need to go back to the FBI and say, hang on, what the fuck have we just paid you, you know, tens of billions of dollars for when you're, you know, keep fucking up. And the Secret Service are the guys who basically have to stop it last minute. But anyway, so that's a footnote. But what's more interesting is this missing poster, which Benny Johnson shows, right? Missing person. And now note something, because here, I think, let me see. This is a missing person poster by the Carthage police, supposedly, right? By the Carthage police, but the police put this out. And notice the Masonic police put this out. Notice something? His name is Tucker Austin Martin. Well, hang on a minute, Austin Martin. Does that remind me of something? Austin Martin, does that ring a bell? Like Austin Martin being the car driven by James Bond, right? Does it ring a bell? Anybody? Right? Why is this relevant? It's because Austin Martin, the reference to James Bond or just British intelligence in general, you will always find a reference to James Bond in these high profile things. Buried in the weeds, but it will be there. And back when I did the expose of Butler, I pointed to the fact that when it was first announced, the governor is called Golddinger or something like that. And they interviewed the governor. What does the governor has to do with anything? Okay. But he was one of the first people was prominently talking about this, right? And CNN mispronounced his name as Goldfinger. Again, a James Bond reference. And because it's CNN, I don't think it was by coincidence. Fox News, the guy who announced it, he was stalling and he was saying gold dinger, and he got it right. But it was almost emphatic the way he did it. But if you just listen to it, to anybody not paying much attention, it sounded like Goldfinger. And that also was highlighted. And I don't think that was that was by coincidence, because you will always find this. And why will you always find it? It's because British intelligence is above US intelligence. It just is. Inside the cabal, the US is a slave colony as much as the crown is concerned, and the crown's own intelligence people are above the US intelligence people. They always have been, they always will be. Get over it. So, but once you know it, you can look for these little MI6 signatures, British intelligence signatures, and you will find them if you look carefully enough. Now, this is right in everybody's face. This was supposedly the missing person poster, right? And it says right there, Tucker Austin Martin. So what, the police couldn't even get the name right? Well, what happened here, right? But there's more, because it's not just, this could be just an innocent typo, but it's not. And the reason why you can tell it's not a typo is because the picture of this kid just so happens to be a knowing smirk, that kind of knowing smirk you will recognize as well. And also very prominently in the background is a ginormous garbage can. In other words, the police are telling us through their cartel signaling that they are made to do by British intelligence, hence Austin Martin, that this whole thing is garbage. Get it? Get it? It's garbage. Look at this knowing smirk by this little shit. This guy is telling you it's garbage. Now, when I can see this photo op having been staged, the first thing I want to know is, where's the dead body? Did the Secret Service really shoot somebody? Or is it, I don't know, that night they picked the night such that the plants of Kim Cheetle are on shift and the whole thing is staged? It sounds outlandish, but then again, Epstein's suicide was staged. It turns out Ghislaine Maxwell is also not in prison, right? The person who was supposedly interviewed, that was also staged. So a lot of shit is staged. When I see this, I want to see proof that this kid is dead, okay? Not because I want him dead, but just because, that's the first thing that needs to be proven here. Because it just doesn't make any fucking sense. Now, the other thing that you will realize that's also cartel signaling, and now I get the towards the references towards that point to me as the fourth death threat, in addition to Catherine Austin Fitz, Tucker Carlson, and Tom Martin. When you look at this guy just so happens to be driving. So this is garbage, says the cartel, right? Tucker, Austin Martin, right? So James Bond, MI6 says this is garbage. And then down here, this kid was driving a 2013 silver Volkswagen, a German car. A German car. And then he also lived in Carthage, North Carolina, Carthage. Now, my history is very bad, but Bill informs me that, Carthage was fighting Rome for some time, right, back in the day. So that's already a bit of cartel signaling. But driving a German car, and what did this kid do? He drove from North Carolina down to Florida. If you punch it into Google Maps, you'll find it's about a 12-hour drive or something like that. This kid didn't fly down there. He drove for 12 hours plus. You have to include breaks. And the FBI couldn't find him, despite the fact that they have gang stalkers and license plate monitoring, all along I-95 that goes from North Carolina down to Florida. Seriously? You couldn't find him even though he was reported missing? But as they say, this is garbage, okay? So the reason why it's relevant to me is because this kid got in the car, drove for over 10 hours, just like I got in the car and drove for hours and hours and hours, down to Florida, right? This kid did it in a German Volkswagen, the most popular German brand. It's not Mercedes, it's not BMW, it's the Volkswagen. It is the typical German car. So he just so happened to drive a German car. And then he drove all the way to Mar-a-Lago. And then there was this whole interaction at the gate of Mar-a-Lago. Now, I drove down to Mar-a-Lago. I survived an assassination attempt. So the FBI was absolutely determined that I don't go there. They sabotaged the underside of my car, right? I will get into that another time. And then I reported to the south gate of Mar-a-Lago. The difference is I was not armed, and I had announced a week earlier that I would do that. So I wrote a letter to the Secret Service at Mar-a-Lago, to Sean Curran actually, and I said, look, in a week's time, I will report to the South Gate with evidence about the assassination attempts against President Trump. And back then I hadn't actually published the material, which was half a dozen of people in the crowd that had foreknowledge of the shooting. You would think the Secret Service would want to know about that. But anyway, as it turned out, and as I'd suspected from the fact that nobody answered our previous mail to President Trump and Sean Curran, I suspected the FBI was stealing our letters. And I was determined to prove it by announcing that I'll be traveling and very civilized and innocently report to the South Gate, not try to get into Mar-a-Lago, but just report to that police checkpoint to hand over the evidence for the Secret Service, right? The logic behind my actions was that even if anybody is trying to smear me as a kook, which is to be expected because we're dealing with the criminal FBI, the Secret Service would still warn the people on shift at the gate that this crazy lady is coming. And I suspected that nobody will have a clue that I'll be there that day. And as it turned out, that's at least what the Secret Service guy said. Nobody had a clue that I was going to go that day or going to be there that day. And nobody had any record of any letters received from Bill Binney and me. And there were already one to President Trump, one to Sean Curran in September, and then my letter to Sean Curran in December. And there were no records of those letters at all. All of them signed also by William Binney, the retired technical director of NSA. And those letters were gone. So I did it as a trap for the FBI. And I was so convinced that, it's going to be that nobody will have a clue that I was going to come, that I didn't even bother to dress for a business meeting. I was basically in a summer dress. And because I knew it's Florida, it's going to be subtropical. I don't want to, be there in a suit dress thing, I was there in a summer dress going like, hey, we can go all day. This is going to be a shit fest. It was, right? But the point is, I traveled for hours and then I reported to the gate. This kid traveled for hours in a German car and reported to the gate, right? There's many, many more connections between this bullshit story and me, but this is when you look at it and when you then realize, okay, according to the official story, the Secret Service shot this guy, right? What to me, it looks like this is a staged event whereby the cabal symbolically shot me, if you know what I mean, because somebody just imitated exactly what I did that already pissed off the FBI so much that they tried to kill me on the road. And now in this crucial time, as Bill Binney and I are trying to get through to the Trump administration, this happens, right? And as I keep saying, as the police themselves say, this is garbage. And the kid is smirking, So tell me, with this, all these details, do you actually believe any of this shit? Do you believe that a kid like that, right, would get so incensed about whatever the fuck, politics? At 20 years, did you give that big a shit about politics to get into your car, to drive for at least 12 hours by yourself, right, completely without warning, and then confront the Secret Service with just a shotgun carrying a canister of fuel? Really? Really? And then he drove into the secure perimeter. Other people say that he climbed in, like, whatever the fuck. It doesn't make sense. Okay? Plus, there's the Aston Martin British intelligence footnote to James Bond, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So I'm telling you now, this is bullshit. And the entire investigation is going towards how deep is the bullshit. Did he die? Did he not die? Did they set up a dumb, stupid little kid that thought he's just going to be a crisis actor and just play along, and then he ended up being shot for real? But then again, if you pull a shotgun and point it at the Secret Service, you can expect to die, right? I don't know. I don't know what the whole thing is, but as I said, I first would want to see the body. And then the other thing is, this time, I would want to make sure, if there really is a dead body, that it doesn't get cremated by the FBI again by tomorrow morning. I would want to make sure that the blood stains and in the drive at Mar-a-Lago don't get washed off by the FBI in the next half an hour. That's the sort of stuff one has to look out for. Oh, God, sorry. I'm getting already, I fucking had enough of this case already. But I'm bracing myself for the onslaught of absolutely undiluted shit. And it already started, okay? So here, hang on. Let me show you one more thing that Benny Johnson put out. I don't really want to play it and go into the details just because I just told you it's nonsense anyway. So why should we waste time? But apparently this time the whole story is, because I guess the FBI, they are dumbest as shit, but even they figured out, hang on, the last couple of times We claimed that Thomas Crooks was a conservative, but then they discovered that he donated to Act Blue. And then there was Tyler Robinson, who shot, Charlie Kirk, supposedly, although that's bullshit too. And then, we claim that he's like this left loony who's gay, and he's, his boyfriend is trans and also furry. Like, oh my God, if we keep doing this and then we have other trans shooters, we will just make our agenda people look like shit. So maybe this time we should say that he's conservative and stick to it, okay? But then this kid is conservative, okay, as this Daily Mail article will say. And by the way, the Daily Mail, just like AP and Reuters, is right up the anus of the beast, okay? So it will be full of cartel signaling. It will not be what it actually is, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, and now they claim that this kid was a conservative and he was really, really, really bothered about the Epstein files. And that's why he wanted to try to shoot Trump with a shotgun. What? Trump just signed the executive order, thanks to which we have the Epstein files at all. That doesn't make any sense. So you see, the whole story is so fucked up and contrived, it doesn't make any sense. And then if you go back, the Thomas Crook story didn't make any sense. The social media messages that the FBI released after a long while that they claimed were Thomas Crooks were clearly written by a member of Gen X or Boomer, because it was not the language used by anybody the age range of Thomas Crooks, right? So I pointed this out a long time ago. And then we also had Ryan Ruth, and he was actually a recruiter for CIA. He was recruiting mercenaries in Afghanistan for Ukraine. It doesn't get any more CIA than that. Okay, so with all this backstory, yeah, it's pretty clear the intelligence agencies pulled this off, whatever they pulled off, and yeah, just brace yourself. But anyway, so this is now the story that this time he was conservative, and yet he really hated Trump out of nowhere. Blah blah blah. I've got all these other links, and I had the motivation to go through all this, but I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to pick anything out. Anyway, you guys have fun just following this case. It's gonna be painful, absolutely painful to go through the details, because it's all gonna be nonsense. But on a much more serious point though, okay, I want to point out the following. I want to point to the interview of Dan Bongino with Fox News earlier, because he makes a very important point about how cases like these are investigated, okay? And this is really where the problem lies. All right, here we go. This is Dan Bongino on Fox News tonight. So they already went through the details, and then he talks about an agreement between the Secret Service and the FBI about how all these cases are, being investigated. And that really goes to the heart of the problem here. It was already the heart of the problem in Butler, but even more so, after all the shit that has happened. Listen.
The FBI has an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with the Secret Service, where the FBI will take over the crime scene in a scenario like this for obvious reasons. If there were, and I'm not suggesting at all this is the case, but if there were some kind of security lapse that required an investigation later, you wouldn't want the Secret Service investigating themselves, and vice versa. If it happened with the FBI, you wouldn't want them investigating themselves either. So we'll generally take over the crime scene. There's usually a smooth transition. The Secret Service will designate some crime scene agents in advance at every site. They have a little asterisk next to their name. They know what to do. They'll hold that, and then there'll be an investigation. And from this point, we'll all be sitting and watching as all the facts emerge.
Yeah. So
Great. Yeah, we'll all be sitting and watching as all the facts emerge from the FBI. Okay, so what's wrong with this picture? As he said, there's an MOU. It's more like an FU, but anyway, an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding between the Secret Service and the FBI. And it goes that if something happens, if there's a breach in security or anything, or something like, you know, an actual assassination attempt on a protectee occurs, like happened at Butler, there's a reasonable probability that, hey, the FBI might have been, not sorry, the Secret Service might have been at fault. So it's better if the FBI investigates. Well, that's nice, right? Sounds like such a pretty little theory, but as I proved in the past in Butler, the FBI did Butler, okay? And then by the same logic, you give the investigation to the agency that orchestrated Butler and conducted the whole thing, and then washed down the roof the next day. What do you expect the outcome to be? And the outcome was that Kash Patel with Dan Bongino, ironically, same guy who just spoke, shut down the investigation into the Trump assassination attempts. Duh, right? Of course, that's what's going to happen. The FBI shut down the investigation into their own assassination attempt against President Trump. That's what happened. Okay. So is this memorandum of understanding really a good idea? Or is it the dumbest possible way to do it? What would be a better way? Okay. The better way would be, and by the way, at the very beginning, I've been writing this document since September 24, right? But I had written a passage to Sean Curran because this memorandum of understanding had been mentioned by Bongino before, even before Curran became a Secret Service director. And when he became it, I was compiling this letter to him saying, the first thing you have to do is dissolve this memorandum of understanding. It's bullshit. It's already bullshit to start with that you hand over the investigation completely without doing it yourself as well. But it's particularly bullshit in the realities of today where it's US intel trying to kill your protectees, right? It's dumb. So stop doing it. You have to cancel this memorandum of understanding. It's just it's a very loose agreement. It's not written into law. So stop it. It's very easy to stop. You just stop, right? And what's the better way of doing it that is more resilient? It is that the FBI and the Secret Service investigate every incident independently. Independently. So if one is bought or one is responsible or fucked up, the other, the other agency conducts the investigation. Now, on the one hand, yes, the Secret Service is maybe more likely to have screwed up, directly leading to this, as it was the case under Kim Cheetle and all the bullshit that happened. But at the same time, it's also in their own interest to make sure that whatever happened gets uncovered and whoever is responsible is removed, because it's their lives on the line. Right? So in a situation of deep capture, in a situation where you have plants who are actively sabotaging things, as I suspect happened at Butler, you would want to know because, hey, in your next shift, you might be dead as a result, right? So actually there's an analogy here, and this is the analogy that I was talking about in this written document that I've shown to Bill and that precedes everything that the Trump administration has done. And I was referring to specifically to Sean Curran in this letter, the gold standard of science, because the gold standard of science is two independent analyses always before any scientific result is trusted. This doesn't happen at all in big pharma. I can tell you there's only one analysis, and even that one is bought. But in other hard sciences where we have to have correct answers, otherwise stuff blows up, right? Like particle physics, there are always two independent analyses. In fact, in particle physics, we have 4 independent analyses. And that's because on these big accelerator rings, there are 2 independent experiments either side, right? At CERN, it is ATLAS and CMS. Back at my other accelerator that I worked with at DAISY, it was Zeus and H1. All right, Zeus and H1. These were 2 independent experiments, ATLAS and CMS, same thing, but completely independent collaborations, right? and we each published our own analyses measuring the same quantity, and only when the two independent analyses agreed did we actually trust the result. Before that, before any of the collaborations published anything internally in these collaborations, there had to be two independent teams running the same analysis without talking to each other. So any scientific corrections of uncertainties, statistical, shortcomings, anything would have to be corrected creatively and independently, so that we don't share ideas, we don't share, any of our data or selected data, nothing. We were not allowed to talk to each other about this analysis within the collaboration. Now, on my first collaboration, there was only back in the one that was at DAISY, the German accelerator lab in Hamburg, the collaboration size was about 300 people. Now, down in CMS and Atlas are about 3,000 people, order of magnitude, right? So among 300 and among 3,000, you can always pick two independent teams or two people who are running independent analyses. Now, just by doing that, we uncovered cock-ups despite our best attempts, right? So our measurements would be off, and then if we really were totally off, we would independently rerun our analyses, and we would reiterate and every single time find mistakes until we really settled on the result. And that's when the collaboration published. And that at the same time, another collaboration published usually something similar, and then we would compare. So there were four independent analyses in particle physics, right? So that is the gold standard of science. At least two independent analyses. So if you want to implement the gold standard of science between the FBI and the Secret Service, the rule has to be that they always, regardless of what happened, as it pertains to the secure sites and the protectees, they always both investigate independently. That is the gold standard. Now, I had specifically used the gold standard of science, and now I hope you understand just how golden that gold standard is. And to my bafflement, after I had written this, the whole draft that I showed to Bill on an offline laptop, suddenly RFK Jr. was talking about the gold standard of science. But the way he talked about it, it was not the gold standard of science. It was the basic standard of science. All right. Now, I'm not accusing of RFK Jr. to be spying on me, but what I am saying is that the FBI and CIA are spying on me for sure, and there are plants in RFK Jr.'s office that have given him the idea of using this, right? And I can prove that I know what the gold standard of science is because I'm a former particle physicist and I know it very, very well. And it features prominently in particle physics. And I can also prove that the way he used it, which had nothing to do with funding or independent funding or this and that, right? The way he used it and what ultimately made it into an entire executive order by President Trump, that is not the gold standard of science. That went through the moron bandpass filter of some minions who read what I'd written on a laptop where they can turn on the Wi-Fi without noticing, reading what I'm writing live without me noticing, copying my intellectual property. Well, I don't have a copyright on the gold standard of science, but I happen to know what it is and they don't. And it made it into an executive order. And oh my God, guys, if you read the executive order on the gold standard of science, because some moron intel agent stole my work and copied it in a shit dumbass way without understanding what the fuck they were talking about, that executive order is an embarrassment to the United States of America. I do not blame RFK Jr. for it. I do not blame President Trump for it because none of them would know anything about this. They let their minions draft this. And these minions, I can prove, are completely imbued with intelligence agency plants who stole my work and fucked it up. But as a result, if you read that in that executive order now, what it outlines is the bottom arse level, the most basic level of science. If you fall below that, you are known you are what's known as a fucking moron. Okay, so it is the fucking moron standard that might even be called science. This is a really bad thing because you basically inscribed it forever into these executive orders how fucking dumb Americans actually are. There was nobody who had even a remote whiff of scientific standards to advise the president when this executive order landed on his desk that whatever these minions produced was total shit. Okay? You can look it up for posterity. This is going to be there for a very long time. It is moronic. But anyway, getting back to it, the real gold standard of science is two independent analyses measuring the exact same thing or transferring it to criminal investigations, two completely independent investigations into the same matter. That is the gold standard of research and scientific investigations or investigations in general. Anything else will always be riddled with mistakes, and even to the best intentions of the investigators and the researchers, there will always be mistakes and they will never ever be corrected unless there's something else to calibrate against. Okay, so moving forward, what absolutely must happen now from now on, taking this incident last night as the ignition, is the Secret Service has to run their own investigations. Always, forever and ever after. The FBI can run it as well. They should, in fact, but the Secret Service has to start investigating these incidents themselves. I understand that they have an entire ink museum. They have forensic labs. Nothing holds them back. The real problem is that the investigative division is it is devoted to investigating counterfeit money and financial crimes. And the problem is that made sense when the Secret Service was founded back then. But these days, hashtag newsflash, every single dollar in circulation is a counterfeit dollar. If you understand how debt money works, how fiat currencies with zero backing work, how credit card companies work, every single goddamn dollar in circulation is already an artificially, digitally created, a counterfeited dollar that has nothing to do with the US Treasury or the US government, not even the Fed that much, to be honest. So given that that's the situation, counterfeit money is not the biggest priority right now, especially not when gunmen and shooters, active shooters, are out to get the protectees. Okay, so maybe we can take the financial division, the one that looks into financial crimes and ATM scamming and card reader scammers and all that shit. That, to be honest, should be done by local police agencies with the support of the FBI. But all that can be safely passed on to the FBI because that bullshit just suits them just as well. They can do whatever the hell they want with that. Okay. But the Secret Service under Sean Curran has to reorient itself towards forensic investigations of these incidents. And more than that, get away from just after the fact investigation into future forward-looking investigations of the people who are currently in the process of planning stuff so that they don't always stop active shooters at the gate. Okay. And this is what Bill Binney and I have been trying to tell the Secret Service, and actually so much more, about directed energy weapons and neurotechnology weapons, and the fact that their Secret Service agents are most likely implanted with microchips, blah, blah, blah. We've been trying to tell them since September 24, but we have been stonewalled systematically. I tried to talk to them at Mar-a-Lago. Nobody was willing to talk to me then. I drove to the Secret Service headquarters, always announcing it ahead of 1 week ahead of time that I would be going to hand over evidence. I was stonewalled every single time. After the first 2 times, I thought, oh, it's probably because I'm just a woman. I'm not even an American citizen, even though I'm absolutely dedicated to helping President Trump. And I think I've proved that. But hey, I'm not a citizen, so how about you talk to my American husband, who was also the technical director of NSA, is one of the best known whistleblowers and patriots. He testified to the House of Lords. He testified to the Bundestag. He designed the system NSA is using. He's a math genius. And not even Bill Binney could get to talk to anybody seriously at the Secret Service headquarters. Not, let alone Sean Curran. He was nowhere to be found, and the letters were addressed to him. But instead, they called the uniform division on us, pretending like they never got the letters announcing that we would like to come and hand over evidence. And if that day and time, Monday morning at 10 a.m. didn't suit, we would be open to any other meeting, anywhere, any other date and time. Nobody answered our letters. When we turned up, they pretended like, oh my God, we are two kooks who just walked in off the street. Nobody saw this coming. I will get into the shit fest at the Secret Service headquarters another time. But suffice to say, to this day, we didn't get through. Now, I have to say, when they just fucked with me, I could deal with it and I could accommodate it. On the third time in DC, when they also humiliated my husband, that's when I really, something in me cracked and I was like, okay, game over. Game the fuck over, because it's not like we are coming with frivolous and vexatious matters here, okay? We are coming with dead serious stuff. And between Bill and me, we have more knowledge of intelligence agency criminality than anybody else bar the perpetrators, okay? And as the Secret Service has maybe learned by now after Butler, the FBI will never tell you the truth. The US military will never tell you the truth about what's going on. The only people who will ever tell you the truth are the people who are victims of those technologies, which is the targeted individuals, and especially ones that have the qualifications, like Bill and I, to analyze the stuff and have done so for decades, decade and a half in my case, and several decades in Bill's case. If you fart us off, if you pretend like we're some homeless people who just strayed into the lobby of the Secret Service headquarters and you absolutely couldn't give a shit about even talking to us, hey, then don't be surprised if you keep being shot at. If you're not willing to listen to Bill Binney, his thin thread program that was already developed for $3 million, mind you, that's just the Secret Service's Super Bowl ad in cost. I think the Super Bowl ad was 2 million. So for a Super Bowl ad and a half, Bill Binney developed his thin thread program that can scan the NSA databases and uncover any and all organized crime, terrorist activity, anything you want within seconds. Within seconds. And he had this technology developed and it was operational in the year 2000. Okay, so if you don't want that technology, if you don't want to uncover the network that was truly behind Butler, if you just want to, take your chances like you did on the golf course in West Palm Beach, like you did, at Mar-a-Lago last night, hey, continue doing what you're doing. Fine. But meanwhile, Bill and I, especially I mean, Bill loves President Trump, but I really, really am ultra friggin' MAGA, right? I want President Trump to live. I want him to continue with his MAGA agenda. I have studied complex human systems and organized crime and what's going on in Western Europe and in North America enough that I know that President Trump is the only chance we have. And it's not just a once in a lifetime chance. It's really once in a 2 millennia chance to drain the swamp and cycle this all our countries out of deep capture. That's what it is ultimately about. Okay, so I am still 100% dedicated, and I'm sorry, Director Curran, I will try to talk to you again with Bill Binney, but this time we're going to make it completely public. It's not really the best way of doing things because it actually puts people into danger, but after 1 year of trying, more than 1 year, I had enough and we're running out of time, okay? We're running out of time. The shit that went down at Mar-a-Lago might be completely staged. I have no idea. Maybe, your colleagues were genuinely shot at. I have no idea. But, stuff genuinely happened to other people. For example, I mean, the shooting of the 2 National Guards people, I don't know if that was staged or not. I had the feeling they genuinely died that day in DC. Okay, but again, I didn't see the dead bodies. You know, anything at all can be staged by the FBI. But to me, it sounded like those people genuinely died. And if we think back of how that happened, again, a random person without any motive whatsoever drove, in that case, across the full width of the US from whatever it was, Washington State, Oregon, all the way to DC just to shoot 2 people. Does that make sense to anybody out there? Right. So that whole incident was cartel signaling too. And I will get into that another day because I've talked enough today. Let me see if there's any references I want to bring up. Yes, there's one actually, but I will talk about it tomorrow. Okay, I will talk about it tomorrow because it's too late now. But okay, there was another incident actually that I want to draw attention to, because West Palm Beach, the golf course incident, and Butler and last night was not even everything that happened. There was something else that people might not know about, which is that the motorcade trip to the airport, Palm Beach International, had to be rerouted because of a suspicious, whatever it was, device somewhere along the way. We haven't heard anything about that since, right? So it's this this whole thing. Now, what you guys at the Secret Service need to know is that when you teach yourselves cartel signaling, what I call cartel signaling, which is the iconography and the coded language of the intelligence agencies, the Masons, and the global cabal, you can read their comms live. If you guys want to run investigations independently from the FBI, which I think you should, you absolutely must. You must learn this coded language. Okay? The advantage is that when you do learn this coded language, a lot of the shit that you guys don't seem to have a clue about right now will become blindingly obvious. One of them, I would like to refer you to the Secret Service pages where you guys are seeking information. Let me just share the screen, because when I saw that, I couldn't fucking believe it. Okay, here we go. So the Secret Service is seeking information on these below organizations and identifiers, which are currently the subject of ongoing US Secret Service investigations. Now, I have stared at this website for over a year now, going on to 2 years almost, looking exactly the same. So what's going on with the Secret Service investigations here? But anyway, as I scrolled down, I laughed out loud, because when you know cartel signaling, when you know the coded language, just by scrolling through this, I can tell you, you're looking at different front organizations of the same network. All of these little companies you're looking for, all of the people involved, they are all connected. They are all working for the same network, if they know it or not, but they are. Behind the scenes, you are looking at the exact same network that tried to kill President Trump at Butler. I promise you. And I can even prove it, because these company logos by the cabal, the logos have usually a clue about what these companies do. Okay, so hey, you guys are seeking information. I'm going to give you information right now. So let's go through it. Let's start with the Joker's Stash card shop. Okay, so in addition to the existing 10 million reward for information, fuck, how much am I going to get for the following that I'm going to tell you? Right, so $10 million reward for information leading to the arrest and or conviction of Timur Shakhmametov. The Secret Service, in partnership with the U.S. Department of State, is offering up to $1 million reward for information leading to the identification of other key leaders of the Joker's Stash card shop. Okay, here we go. You guys showed the company logo. Okay, now let's go through this, because the clue is staring you in the face. This logo has Masonic and crown symbolism plastered all over it, and it goes as follows. The first prominent feature that you notice beyond the fact that this is a clown, right, is that the clown has this black and white checkered pattern. That is what's called Masonic tiling, and it's the same pattern that is at the center of every single Masonic temple. Okay? Masonic tiling, black and white checkered, right? So I can tell you right now that whoever runs this thing is a Freemason. But okay, I know, it doesn't really narrow it down. Okay, so let's continue. The next thing that really prominently stares you in the face is this hand sign by the Joker. That's the so-called Omerta hand sign, the vow of silence of, you guessed it, the Masons, the Illuminati, and this global cabal. It is one of their standard hand signs, and I will give you an example where it features. So once you know this, okay, once you know that this is an insider symbol, when you come across a company like this one, this is when you put your knowledge of cartel signaling into practice, and you can prevent shit from happening to you because you already read the company logo correctly. Okay. So when you come across a company like this one, ashleymadison.com, you recognize immediately the symbol for the vow of silence. Okay. Now, people might not know what Ashley Madison is, so I've got a Wikipedia page here. Hang on, let me just, I think I have to stop the share and then reshare it because I can't change the tab with those buttons overlaying. Okay, so Ashley Madison, or the Ashley Madison Agency, is a Canadian-French online dating service and social networking service launched in 2002 and marketed to people who are married or people in relationships who are looking for affairs. The website slogan is, "Life is short, have an affair." Okay. Now, apart from the fact that you have to be utterly fucking stupid to enter any sort of commercial relationship with the company, revealing to them as the basis of your business interaction with them that you're married and you're about to have an extramarital affair. Okay, so that amount of stupid aside, right? If anybody, let's say in the Secret Service, just for the sake of the argument, I'm not saying anybody signed up, but let's say you're a Secret Service agent, you come across my video, and unlike Sean Curran himself, you do not think, oh, Catherine Horton is just some dumb little woman and I don't need to listen to her. Maybe for a nanosecond, you actually entertain the fact that I've researched the shit out of this and I know what I'm talking about. I tell you that this is the sign, the cabal sign of the vow of silence. Okay, so how is that relevant to your life and what you're about to do with it or not do with it? Okay, so if you approach a company like that and let's say, hey, you think, wow, I'm bored in my marriage, it's maybe a sexless marriage, like a quarter of the Mar apparently. I would like to have an affair, I have my needs as a man. Sounds great. You would get to this company logo and the first thing you should think is, hang on, the cabal made it pretty clear that they are running the shit. Okay? Because they printed the vow, their own vow of silence right on the page. Now, there's another piece of cartel signaling, which is actually the ring in the company name itself. Now, people might think, oh, it's indicating that it's for married people. Yeah, sure, but it also just so happens to be the cartel symbol for the upper ring, as in a pedophile ring and other sex rings. Okay, so there are two cartel symbols here, right? The other thing is, notice that her hand is making the prominent sign for loser, right? As in the Kabbalah saying, we, the upper rings, this is a sex ring, run by us, keep your mouth shut, don't reveal it. This is for losers. For losers. Okay? This is for losers. When you see this, and as soon as I saw this logo back in the early 2000s, when this was actually advertised on the internet all the time, right? When I saw this, back then I didn't know anything about cartel signaling, but when I learned about the vow of silence later on, I realized, oh, hang on. The fact that this company operated, recruited, I don't know how many customers they had, but they was in the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. It was, crazily popular for some reason. When they had enough customers, there was a hack. And suddenly, all these married people's information and who they had an extramarital affair with, was stolen by criminals. Nobody saw that coming. Now, if you knew cartel signaling, you would have seen just from this advertisement alone that this was the business plan all along. They were trapping losers. Right? And why? Because the cabal, since times immemorial, is operating with blackmail, with control files. And just like that, they got dumb little idiots to basically enter a business relationship with them on the basis that they wanted to commit an extramarital affair. And boom, they had viable control files on hundreds of thousands of people. Just like that. And funny thing is that to their insiders, they announced that this is for losers, and they told their own minions, who are also just as sex crazed and just as stupid as anybody, to stay the fuck away because this is just for losers. So cartel members would see this and go, hang on a minute, vow of silence. Oh, the ring. Oh, the ring. Oh, hang on, losers. Well, I'm not the loser. Well, I'm going to stay the hell away from Ashley Medicine. And that way I don't run into the trap, right? So when the hack occurred and the details leak, my details will not be among them. Okay, so this is also why cartel signaling is in company logos, so that they don't entrap and screw up their own employees, okay, their own cartel members. So knowing about cartel signaling can save lives, reputations, careers, and so on. If you're in the Secret Service and you can read cartel signaling, it might just save your life and that of your colleagues. So please take this seriously. Okay, so let's go back to this the Secret Service seeking information, because I've got more information for you guys. All right, so let's turn on our thinking hats here and let's see if we can get more work done than the Secret Service did the last 2 years. So we have the Masons. So this is a Masonic company with the vow of silence. So, and you will notice that here the vow of silence does not make the L sign, okay? It's just the vow of silence. So keep your mouth shut. Anybody who sees this, shut the F up about what we're doing here, even if you can decode this, right? Then the other thing you will notice is that the Joker wears a crown, not just the Joker's hat with the 3 things, but also a crown. And the crown itself has 3 spikes. So the 3 whatever tips of the hat of the Joker, there's a number 3 there. Then there's the symbol of the crown, and then there's 3 spikes on the crown. So you have Masonic 33 right there staring you in the face. So this is a Masonic company. So out of the billions of people of planet Earth, you can reduce it down to the Masons. Okay, so whoever this Timur whatever is, his the senior members of his Masonic lodge will be in on it, or whoever he's shit mixing with in the Freemasons will be in on it. But there's more, my darlings. The other thing you will notice is that this Joker is holding a staff. Who else is holding sticks and staffs like that? I don't know. It will become clear later. But there are 2 keyholes on that staff. 2 keys. Where the hell have I seen 2 keys featuring really prominently and somehow tied to the Masons and tied to, financial shit fuckery and all that sort of stuff? I remember it distinctly, but where have I seen it, right? So let me just bring it up. In case you don't know, the 2 keys, and okay, if you're American and you don't know, you're not from Europe, this might be, very far-fetched, but if you're in Europe, this shit is rather prominent for historical reasons, okay? So the 2 keys refer to the 2 Vatican keys, you guys. It's right on the flag of Vatican City, the 2 keys. the two key holes on the Joker's stash staff match the two keys to the Vatican. So the key to the Joker's stash is the Vatican, you guys. The Vatican is really deep in financial shit mixing and financial corruption through Banco Vaticano. The Vatican, more than anything, is a corporation and a bank. And they had to bring in Goldman Sachs out of it. That's when Satan hires Lucifer to tidy up the financial accounts. They had to bring in Goldman Sachs to tidy their whole accounts a little bit, as much as possible, when the Europeans started going after financial crime. Okay, but this is a reference to the Vatican, unmistakably. And why is it very clear? Is because the Crown Corporation is a company that is founded, and lost in the mist of time under canon law, and Vatican City is property owned by the Crown Corporation. Okay, which is, by the way, also why the Vatican hat has like 3 crowns. There's the number 3, letter C in the alphabet, 3rd letter in the alphabet. The 3 crowns stand for the number 3, which stands for Crown Corporation. Okay, so 3 crowns plus an extra C from the number 3 crowns, the triple multiple, and that stands for the C in corporation. Now, in the original Latin, it's Corporatio Corona, also known as Crown Corporation, and by pure coincidence in English, the exact same acronym. Okay, so going back to the Joker stash here. Oh God, I hope I make it clear to you guys why this shit really matters. Okay, so going back and putting all this together, you are asking for $1 million, or you're offering $1 million for information leading to other key leaders of the Joker stash card shop. It's the Vatican, guys. You're looking at the fucking Vatican. You're looking at the Vatican Bank, okay? And it's said right here. That's clear by the fact that the key to this double keyhole are the 2 keys of the Vatican, 1 gold, 1 silver, right? That also, relates to the precious metal stuff that they're doing. But it's Banco Vaticano. Now, they also are the owners, the inventors, whatever you want to call it, of the Masons, because the Masons are the civil intelligence agency that they're using to infiltrate all the countries, and the Jesuits are more like military intelligence. Okay, so these 2 parts, the Masons and the Jesuits, 2 parts of the same thing. So when you can see Masonic tiling, the vow of silence, omerta, the 33 incorporated in the 3 tips of the hat, the 3 prongs of the crown, an actual crown, an actual staff, a bit like a, I don't know, bishop staff maybe, and then the double keyhole where the Vatican keys are the goddamn key to this all. You're basically looking at the front organization of the Vatican. All right, that's it. They're telling you right there. No big fucking surprise there. Now, something else that you will notice is the hunchback. That could be a reference to the famous Hunchback of Notre Dame. Notre Dame is another Catholic cathedral in Paris. Catholic, get the reference to the Vatican Bank. So I don't know if the Paris reference has anything to do with the fact that it might be a Parisian Masonic lodge that this guy hangs out in, or his handlers hang out in, or that the money gets laundered through tax havens owned by France. All those French islands. The British have their tax havens, the French have their tax havens. It's all little islands around the world. So hey, this guy might be hanging out there if you look for him. That's where I would look first. Okay, if I don't know where this guy is and I'm too freaking stupid to just go into the NSA database and pull out where the fuck this guy is, which by the way you guys can do, then this is how I would go about doing it. It's pedestrian, but the logo tells you who you're looking for and where. Okay, there might be more buried in the logo, but frankly, I can't be bothered to do your work for you. So this is where you get started. Okay, so the Joker stash is related to the Masons and to the Vatican Bank, and has probably some tie to France, to Paris, the Paris Masonic Lodge. That's why I would look first. Maybe the closest one to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is also a Catholic reference, but I would also very definitely check out money laundering going through French tax havens around the world. There you go. That's what I read from the Joker stash, and it stares you right in the face. Now, moving on. What about the others, right? If I go to the next one, the Try to Check cybercrime platform, again, $10 million reward with $1 million reward for information leading to other key leaders. It stares you in the face, guys. This is CC, Crown Corporation, Corporatio Corona, the same fucking thing. Right? Try two, and the number 2 in yellow is highlighting this thing. Try 2 of those. What you get CC, okay? Crown Corporation, same fucking thing. Moving on. The Hive ransomware as a service group. Okay, now this again is Masonic symbolism. The hive and the honeycomb pattern. The bees, the honeybees, are the gang stalkers, the infiltrators, the little minions of the Masons that get them their compromat, their information, their insider information. So the honeybees are the little, the people who get them information. For this reason, the honeycomb pattern, and especially when it's accompanied with the word hive, right, is again tied to the Masons. Okay, that's again why I would start looking. You guys haven't put out anything more about these people, and I can't be bothered to click on the learn more and do all the work for you guys. But again, I'll promise you, this is another Masonic frontier. Now, moving on, the Black Cat ransomware service group. Oh my God, Masonic black and white is staring us in the face again, right? In the face again. And then in this logo, you have just the hints at the letter C here and the letter C there. I know it's kind of buried, but when you know what you're looking for, it stares you in the face. There's a prominent CC around the whole thing, the bracket around the whole thing that's going on there with this cat or whatever that is. The brackets around it, right? That's again CC, Crown Corporation, Corporatio Corona, black and white, Masons, the same fucking thing, okay? So you're looking, all of these down here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 are different front organizations of the Masons. And then we need to, look. Oh, there's another thing, by the way. This is the Alpha Black Cat ransomware group. There's another reference in this name to the Masons. Oh, sorry, I didn't even look at it properly here. Alpha, the A is swapped around, and that is the Masonic compass, okay? The symbol of the Masonic compass. So you have CC, Crown Corporation, black and white tiling, and you have V, or the Masonic compass like that. That's again the Masons. There you go. All the same thing. They have different minions running different front organizations, but at the very top, they're all connected to Banco Vaticano. There you go. If you want the highest level people involved in this, it's them. All right. And this is the key to it all. Now, these guys up here, this is a bit more involved. I would have to know a bit more about it. But look, if it's a money laundering service, Banco Vaticano has a global monopoly on any and all financial shit fuckery. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing. This could be the UAPS, has gold bars at the center. Yeah, that's very Vatican, isn't it? And then it has double pillars, almost like, again, the double pillars of Freemasonry, right? But I would have to look into it to be 100% sure, because this is a bit more vague. Now, Pin Pays has the satanic as above, so below, the satanic inversion. And at its center, it has the Masonic double pillars. So that's, again, a bunch of Masons. And this thing here, the Bitcoin operation, I'm not sure if it's tied to these two. I would have to know more about it. But Bitcoin, I can tell you, was developed by the intel agencies, which is why the inventor of Bitcoin is not known. Nobody claimed this wonderful invention, and it's sold to us as something wonderful. So it's again going back to the intelligence agencies, which goes back to the Masons, which goes back to the Vatican. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And all these names look very Eastern European / Russian. Okay. Shakhmametov, Ivanov, right? Kolkov, right? And here I can't see a name, but again, it's the Russia thing. The Russians are Freemasons, just like the Americans, just like the French and the British and the Germans. Okay, so same corporation. There you go. Seeking information, you got it. All right, there you go. But the point is, one can really, these are the initial leads that give you an idea where to look and what to expect. Okay. But the bigger conclusion is that if you guys listen to me and allow me to teach you cartel signaling and this coded language, the iconography of this transnational criminal organization, you can read so much more and uncover so much more than you could by just looking at it, face value. That's the point. Anyway, I banged on enough. I've got lots of other things that I thought I have time to talk about, but I will leave that to tomorrow. Okay, going forward, what's the plan? I'm sorry, I am rather annoyed today because I just got a very public death threat, as I understood it. I think, in summary, the person who was or was not shot, whatever, is said to have been shot by the Secret Service at Mar-a-Lago, was a symbolic representation of myself. Why? Because this guy drove for over 10 hours to drive to Florida, which is exactly what I did on December 8th, 2024. He reported to the gate. It's claimed publicly it's the North Gate. I went to the South Gate, but in satanic reversal, as above, so below, right? Same thing. He drove a German car, a Volkswagen, and he's a conservative. I guess I'm a conservative. Before I came to the US, I didn't know I'm a Republican, but I figured out, yes, I'm a rabid Republican. So that's another connection. But also, the green garbage can told us everything on the surface is garbage. The name Austin Tucker Martin on the missing persons poster that has the Carthage police phone number is reversed to Tucker Austin Martin. I'm not sure if Benny made this missing poster and it was just an innocent mix-up. Could be, but it just happens to be so perfectly fitting the British intelligence reference that also was present at Butler when they kept referring to Goldfinger as the governor, right? Just so frickin' happened. There's more connections between this guy. I mean, not actual physical connections. I don't know this guy. I have no idea what the fuck went down. Nothing to do with me. It's all bullshit as far as I can tell. But in terms of the details, there are other details that I can tie to circumstantial details that fit me that I don't want to get into. And it is for these reasons that I maintain that this was a symbolic satanic ritual sacrifice or a symbolic shooting of this guy. Depending on if he genuinely died, then it was satanic ritual sacrifice. If the whole thing is staged from A to Z, then it was just a symbolic shooting of me. Either way, it is a symbolic shooting of somebody who traveled to a very long time to get to Mar-a-Lago. Now, the other thing is the shotgun and the canister. I mean, maybe the canister of fuel is a reference to starting a fire, with me starting a fire at the time. What happened is that I kind of set up the FBI to prove that the Secret Service had no idea that I was coming. On the day, which was the morning of the 9th of December, 2024, when I spoke to I just very nicely and politely reported to the police checkpoint, to the very nice police officers, and spoke to the very nice Secret Service agents on the South Bridge outside Mar-a-Lago. Because it was the South Bridge and I was on the sidewalk and the Secret Service on the actual road surface, I was looking straight south. As a result, I could not actually decipher the micro expressions of the Secret Service. Big guy, big, muscular guy, right? As big as a built-in wardrobe in my house. I couldn't actually see his face though because of the sun. I couldn't read decipher his micro expressions. I can't tell if he was lying or not as a result from just the tone of voice. I'm not sure if he said the truth and the Secret Service genuinely didn't have a record of our letters, or if he was just pretending to because he was told to. I have no idea. But either way, I told him, look, this is serious. If it's true that you don't have a record of these letters, please, please, please make it your personal mission to inform Sean Curran and the president that the president's and other correspondence is being stolen from the president's private property, because the tracking code, the UPS tracking code, showed that these letters actually arrived. The first batch was signed for by, I think, a guy called Andrew at Mar-a-Lago, and the second batch was specifically signed for as Secret Service, the one in December. And I said, the Secret Service signed for these letters, so how the hell did you not know I'm going to be here this morning? That was the letter where I told you I'm going to be here 9th of December, 10 a.m. at the police checkpoint outside Mar-a-Lago. Here I am. How the fuck did you not know? And also add to that, at around 9:45 a.m., I was already on the bridge, ready for this, but just looking out over the waterway, I saw the Trump motorcade come out of Mar-a-Lago and drive past me. Okay, so Trump was there at the time, right? How come they didn't know about this? Maybe the whole thing was just lies and they just drove past me to see who this crazy woman was. Could be. I don't care. Either way. But the point is, the time to be joking around about these things is over. Bill Binney and I are dead serious. I'm not sure if you heard the impact sound a moment ago, but my office is being shot by a drone firing pulsed energy projectiles. When I go to bed, soon, they will be firing throughout the whole night into my skull and into my body, so that every night, ever since I came to the US, I have to sleep with 2 military metal helmets over my head to protect my brain at night, to make sure that, or increase my chances to wake up the next morning. Okay. Now, President Trump has been in office for a year, over a year now, and the US Air Force continues to gun, torture, batter, maim, and mutilate, and also kill Americans and women like myself under his watch. That's the Department of War under Hegseth. It's beyond a joke now. I also have tried my absolute utmost for the last 6 years, 7 years actually, to protect Bill Binney's life, but I am just by myself. I don't have the skills. I don't have Secret Service training or anything. And Bill and I survived already several assassination attempts together. Okay, so at some point we need the help of President Trump to stop this, to tell the US Air Force to stop gunning our home, to stop gunning my body. We are at a fixed address. How the fuck can the US Air Force not be made to stop gunning this one house? How is that possible? Okay, these are advanced military stealth drones. I can see them on my spectrum analyzers, but when I go outside and look up into the sky, I don't see anything. But that's not hard to achieve. Okay, but I need help. Bill Binney, my husband, he is systemically important to the US because of his thin thread program, because of his knowledge and his skills, and he too is being tortured to death. In his case, he doesn't get drone gunned like I am, but he gets tortured by now almost 24/7 through the non-consensual implants that the hospital next to NSA put into his legs when his lower legs were amputated, which in turn was necessitated by repeated bioweapon attacks on him. So that's the situation we're at. My husband is a double amputee who lost his legs as a result of FBI bioweapon attacks. Our house is being gunned 24/7 by the US Air Force, and when we leave the house, the FBI actually shoots me in the face with these modern weapons, pulsed energy projectiles, when I drive my car. Okay, so this is just how serious it is in the US with the deep state. Anyway, now the plan going forward is I'm not going to shut up about this now after the the cabal ritualistically shot somebody who is an avatar for me, who represents me as far as I can understand. That's it. That's like day zero, day T0, day one for me now. I'm going to be exposing everything I can, with not to embarrass people. I most definitely don't want to embarrass President Trump or Secretary Kennedy or Sean Curran or the Secret Service or the Mar-a-Lago team. Not at all. As far as I can tell, you guys are the only reason, the Secret Service and Sean Curran, that our president is still alive. I am just approaching you with nothing but the intention to serve and help you and assist you so that you don't get fucked over by the deep state and by British intelligence and old money in Europe that I had more dealings with than you, it seems, and I know better than you. So I can teach you what I know, and that was my sole intention when I wanted to give you the evidence down at Mar-a-Lago, and when I reported to the Secret Service headquarters 3 times in a row. On the 7th of April, on Monday morning, 10 a.m., on the 1st of May, and the 14th of July. And this 14th of July was with Bill Binney. To be stonewalled every single time and to have the uniform division called on me every single fucking time. It is a goddamn joke. It is really humiliating and sadistic. And hey, you guys can play this game, but at the end of the day, it is you guys who might just pay with it with your life, unless you really smarten up and you start running your own investigations, you start learning about cartel signaling. And if you're really, really smart, you help Bill Binney to talk to President Trump, and you help Bill Binney reinstate his Thin Thread program, because back, if we had Thin Thread, the entire team behind Butler, behind the West Palm Beach golf course attack, behind this bullshit last night, could be unmasked within seconds for good. And we could actually have proactive security for President Trump where we anticipate threats. I'm not talking pre-crime or shit like that. No, by noticing when people are planning to assassinate the president, not in their minds, but actually, when they start to act and start to organize. All this is possible. It was already possible 25, 26 years ago. But the cabal destroyed Thin Thread, NSA destroyed Thin Thread, and the FBI and NSA have been since torturing, maiming, mutilating, debilitating Bill Binney, and from their point of view, for a very good reason. And I might seem like nobody to you guys. I'm better known in Europe, but if you think Bill Binney is a nobody, you guys are morons, and we can't help you. But I really hold my hope out that Sean Curran will come to his senses. Maybe he was just super busy in the first year and he thought, I cannot accommodate this shit. But the point is, he wouldn't have to do any work. I can just show you guys. I can give you everything you need as far as I can tell, right? Regarding directed energy weapons, non-consensual implants, neurotech, attacks, neuro hijack of Secret Service agents, and how to forestall that. I really have a lot of information that I can give you, and Bill Binney has Thin Thread in all his knowledge, and I desperately need help with protecting his life and my own, right? So if anybody comes to their senses and could possibly help us, that would be nice. Otherwise, I will be just out here on YouTube trying to talk sense into people. Anybody who heard today's broadcast and could possibly help me, please do, because we're running the fuck out of time. We were already out of time back in September 2024, but we are now so out of time, it's not funny. And the truth is, and this is the final thing I'm going to say tonight, if we don't shut the deep state down, they will not just come after President Trump after his term is over. I mean, they will come after him already during his term, but after his term is over, they will come after him with a vengeance, but also against his children and grandchildren. The same will be true of Director Curran, just because he has been seen to protect the president's life. The same will be true of the people who are on the presidential protective detail, because they have been seen to try to protect the president's life. The cabal do not operate with logic or understanding or any sense or sensibility. They operate out of vindictiveness, okay? And anybody who crosses them ends up on a blacklist for life. And not just them, but the entire bloodline. I have proof that the targeting program is generational. So every second person who supplied me with an affidavit had evidence that either their parents or their children were also being targeted by the intelligence agencies. So it is generational. And when you put all the evidence together, I can tell for sure that the family Trump will go exactly the same way as the family Kennedy, where they were murdered one after the other, basically. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. It's a jolly good thing that RFK Jr., a Kennedy, has paired up with President Trump. But I'm telling you, if the Kennedys and the Trumps understand what they're up against, they better, stick together and shut down the deep state for good. We have a fighting chance for this. In fact, we can make everybody, even cabal members, more money. We can make the royal families more money. We can make Banco Vaticano more money and more wealth. I mean, money. It's a fiat currency. I'm talking about wealth. We can create more wealth for everybody if we step the fuck out of the cycle that we're in, which is the old Crown Corporation asset stripping cycle, represented by the snake biting its own tail. If we together make the snake go up the stairs with us, along with humanity, everybody will get wealthier. So I'm trying to help President Trump. I'm trying also to help, by the way, the King of England, who's also, he and his family are also on the takedown list of the cabal. And I will get into that over the coming days and weeks. But we are all on their shit list, okay? I look like nothing to millionaires and billionaires, but to trillionaires who are the cabal members at the very top who own Banco Vaticano and the Crown Corporation, multi-billionaires look like nothing. Okay, so we are all little aunts and we have to rely on each other. So whoever heard today's broadcast, thank you for listening. I'm sorry I banged on so much. I have to be honest, I was very upset. My next broadcast will be shorter, pithier, to the point. Thank you for indulging me tonight. I hope it helped, and talk to you soon, ideally tomorrow. So bye for now and have a good night.